This video is brought to you by
Cool Green Clothing. We done gone worldwide, and we coming straight out of Baltimore. And if you in town, pull up on us. We're on the block with it at 215 West Saratoga Street. And if you're not in town, go online right now at coolgreenclothing.com and make your purchase. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you ain't cool and getting the green, you're in the way. And that's just basic.
What's going on, YouTube, fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. In everyday life, we all have choices to make and a lot of decisions. It could be something simple, small, like what am I going to eat today? Or something big, like getting frustrated at your job to the point you are thinking about quitting. For a lot of people, they breeze through life, make the right choices, and try to stay a productive member of society. They don't break the law. They might choose a paycheck over the streets because they realize the consequences that comes behind making those decisions and what exactly could happen when you go against the grain. For example, like the person frustrated at work. They know they can walk out at any given time and try to find a new job. But then you have to deal with what comes behind that. You have to ask yourself questions like, can I afford to miss a paycheck? Do I have a savings to pay rent and take care of myself while I'm unemployed? And that alone, most of the time, is enough for an individual to pump their brakes and not let a bad day dictate to their future and livelihood. But that's logical thinking. Everybody doesn't operate like that though. Some individuals are impulsive. They do what they feel and worry about the consequences later. I'm sure we have all had moments like I'm about to go do something crazy or crash out for whatever reasons. It could be pressure of life or not having enough money to survive. Right in that moment, you had the power to say, nah, I'm geeking, and shake those thoughts or to go with your move. But prison and graveyards are full of people that went with their move, not fully understanding the choices they made led to their situation. But sometimes that reality doesn't hit until it's too late. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing the case of how a one-man crime spree in Baltimore turned into 2 life sentences. Back in 2020, 28-year-old Antonio Jennifer was trying hard to navigate life in Baltimore. The young man was trying to stay out the way and keep his nose clean after just coming home a year prior from an attempt back in 2012. After being gone 7 years, his focus was on shaking back and adapting back to life and his family. But for anybody that has ever been released from prison, then you know that's easier said than done. The temptation once you hit the streets just hits a little different, and some people pick up vices. For Antonio, he was no different. He had started messing around with certain substances, getting high, which is not uncommon in a city like Baltimore, where addiction runs wild. Thinking he had it under control, Antonio kept dipping and dabbing. On the night of May 26, 2020, it was no different. He was outside, riding through the city. He had grabbed his drug of choice and used it to get out the gate before he started bending corners. Now under the influence and on the road, Antonio didn't realize he was geeking, high and driving crazy. He stopped at a red light on Light Street, but once he stopped, he nodded out. And as the light turned green, he didn't move his vehicle. 9:30 at night, people started beeping, but Antonio was out. A Baltimore City police officer was in the area and got out his car to see what the commotion was about. He approached Antonio's Crown Vic and saw the man was nodding out. Thinking it was an overdose, he nudged Antonio multiple times before he woke up. Realizing it was the police, Antonio hit the gas, fled, causing the police to hop back in his car and give chase. While speeding through Federal Hill, Antonio crashed into multiple vehicles. He then hopped out on feet, causing a police officer to get behind him and give chase. Once he was able to catch up with Antonio, he grabbed the man. But over 6 feet, 200 plus pounds, the man fought back. And seconds later, multiple shots went off. As people heard the man shout, "Help, officer down," Antonio again ran off on feet, gun in hand. He then aimed the weapon at a man in his car and let off one shot. The bullet came close to hitting the man in the head, but it missed, and the person in the car was able to flee the scene. After that, Antonio ran up to another car, gun in hand, and told the man to get out of his vehicle, in which the man did what he was told. Now with wheels, Antonio knew he was hot and had to get out of the area. He saw a man coming back from getting something to eat, walking into his house. Desperate to switch whips, knowing he had just shot a police and carjacked somebody, he upped the gun on the man and forced his way into the house. He demanded the homeowner hand over his car keys, but the man stated he didn't own a vehicle. Antonio then fled the house, hopped back in the first car, and sped off. Back on the scene of the police shooting, other police responded and realized it wasn't just any officer, but a Baltimore City police officer that went viral for being known as Saint the Rapping Cop. The young police, Joshua Jackson, Joshua had made a name for himself by rapping about the reality of crime and violence in Baltimore and what he sees daily being on the other side of the fence. His mission was to touch the youth, relate to them through lyrics. Decent behind the mic, he actually picked up some steam, and the Baltimore City Police Department even funded his first music video and pushed him to keep rapping. But now he was shot. Fortunately for him, he had on a bulletproof vest, and out of multiple shots that were let off, only one grazed the man. Everyone on the scene, including Officer Jackson, the carjacking victim, and the man who was shot at, knew exactly how Antonio looked. Also, a store camera and a dash camera caught the officer shooting and the carjacking, but he was MIA. The rapping cop was good after being stitched up, but now Antonio, only a year out of prison, was a wanted man. A few days later, the stolen car was found in Washington, D.C. Now with a reward out for him, police were getting tips where Antonio might be hiding out at, not far away from D.C. in PG County, Maryland. A few days later, he was arrested, taken into custody, charged with first, second-degree attempted hit, carjacking, and home invasion, and held without bail. Officer Jackson spoke out on the events of that night. He stated he had Antonio in a bad hug, but the much bigger man was able to break away. That's when he let off multiple shots. He was thankful he survived and stated he would continue documenting his journey in the streets of Baltimore through music, saving the youth from caskets. Antonio, already a convicted felon, was now facing multiple new charges. As the case made its way to court, Antonio took responsibility for what he did, as Officer Jackson and another victim was in the courtroom. He apologized, stating he was trying to do right. He had found a job and everything, but had lost it, and started messing and smoking with K2, a synthetic grass. He stated that night he didn't remember nothing that happened. His lawyer argued about his mental state and stated the man was probably paranoid after what had just taken place a few days prior with George Floyd and that whole situation. They felt like Antonio probably felt he was in danger, but the judge pointed to the fact Antonio shot the police officer 5 times, attempted to shoot another man, carjacked the person, and ran in somebody's house. And with that information, just like that, only being free a year, it was all over. Antonio was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 213 years, with at least the first 35 years to be served without parole. Fortunately, in this case, no one physically lost their life, but Antonio made a bad choice that trickled down to other decisions that night that cost him his freedom. I know for a fact, because he said it himself in court, that he wished he could go back to that night. He would have did it all different. At the most, he probably would have got a DUI and a handgun violation if the gun was his. I couldn't find any information stating whether it was his gun or the police officer, but I'm sure he would much rather took that 5 to 10 years other than 2 life sentences. Life is all about choices, and what we choose to do today will definitely affect tomorrow. But I want to know y'all thoughts about this situation. And have you ever made a decision that snowballed into something you had trouble shaking back from, or thought about doing something crazy and caught yourself? Let me know your experiences in the comments. Yeah, man, that's a crazy story. I kind of feel bad for yo. 2 life sentences plus 200 and something years. That's a lot of time. But yeah, I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. Y'all leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. It's another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam. I'm out. Yo, what's the word, fam? We got a deal for you so you can get your fashion right this summer to get 10% off your purchase at Cool Green Clothing. All you got to do is click the link in the comments. I'm going to pin it right there for you. Add your items for purchase in the cart. Before you complete your order, type in code 2x10TV to get 10% off your purchase. Again, be sure to tap that link because without that, you can't get your discount. And that's code 2TIMESTV10. We appreciate your love and support.